Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we've got the review of the weekend's racing. I'm hoping to get through this video without having a coughing fit or just losing my voice or anything. So apologies if I do in advance. But let's start off with talking about Jericho Du Reponet winning at Newbury. So he won it, and he won it eventually on the bridle. But he should have done. When Santara decided that he didn't like the fences, didn't like the hurdles, and ran all over the place and disappointed, the other bits of form are very moderate. You know, King William Rufus has had 5 runs, had been over hurdles twice, had finished 6th and 7th over hurdles, and that was the horse that Jericho De Rene went past on the bridle. Any horse in this Supreme Novice come the end of the season would have gone past King William Rufus on the bridle. So, I mean, if you've backed him after that race with the Supreme Novice in mind, I think that's a terrible bet. If you backed him before, look, if you backed him 3 weeks ago or however long ago and you got 25 to 1, great, you're sitting on a good price because he is only 8 to 1, 5 to 1 in places. That's a ridiculous price. If you're backing him now, that's a terrible bet. He did not beat anything. He did half come off the bridle as well. Now, I know Nicky will say that, you know, he learned a lot. He had to be nudged into the back into the bridle. He went through a gap, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, there was some things that he learnt there, but he didn't beat anything. So that was not a good performance. It wasn't impressive. It was what any horse in this Supreme Novice hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival would have done to the rest of the field. You had a horse that was hanging in Sea Invasion. You had Santara, who was hated the hurdles, didn't know how to jump, and King William Rufus is very, very moderate. So, yeah, don't back him now. Do not back Jericho De Rene now. If you've got him at a bigger price, great. If you haven't, don't back him. Moving on to the 1240, Degelo was a good winner, won quite decisively. Russian Ruler was the one that caught my eye. I don't think he was given a hard time on his return after 221 days off the track. I thought Nicky Henderson's, both of them were given gentle rides, but he was very much given a gentle ride. And it'd be interesting to see where they go next with Russian Ruler. I'm actually going to put him on my NagMe. Where next can win similar handicap? So he's in my NagMe. We had Max of Stars to try and take on Wood Who, and do you know what? She ran a really good effort, didn't she? She was clearly the second best horse in the race. They were miles clear of the rest. Wood Who, she's obviously very smart as well. I think they're both decent fillies, to be honest. I think they're better than, a lot of the post-race talk was, they're going to find much harder tasks going forward. Are they? In fillies events and fillies juvenile hurdles, yes, when they come up against the geldings in juvenile hurdles, yes, they will have more to find against those. But in terms of fillies events, I think that was a good fillies event. And there's other races that they could certainly be targeted at. And Max of Stars and Wood Who, I think, will be towards the top end of the fillies juveniles. Hermes Helen, good winner of the John Frankerman. To be honest, of the races over the weekend, I was probably more taken by Hermes Helen, or definitely more taken by Hermes Helen than Jericho De Reponet. I think Hermes Helen, that was a very good performance. Beat some race-fit horses. Paul Nicholls had come out and said before that Hermes Helen would probably improve for the run. They'd done missed a bit of work with him. He took to fences pretty well. He had a nice run through the race with Nickelback making all the running. I think Nickelback is interesting if they drop him back into a handicap. I think that's where you should go with Nickelback. Drop him into a handicap and try and take everything else off their feet. I think they've bumped into a proper Grade 1 horse in Hermes Helen. And, I mean, as a Brown advisory bet, Hermes Helen's not the worst price at 14s and 16s. If you think that's where he's going to go, I wouldn't be putting you off backing him, because I think that was a good effort. Obviously the Irish, as soon as they start taking on the Irish, or the proper big Irish horses, he may find that he's like a third, fourth, fifth sort of horse. But in terms of what he can do in England, I think he will take all of the beating in multiple races in England until he runs against the Irish. 225, Fero Bamboo. We were on Fero Bamboo. It drifted out to 5-1. I was really hopeful, and look, he went 103. Made a mess of the last. That would have cost, in my opinion, it cost him the race. And the reason for that is, I know people say, but if you watch him, he didn't actually lose that much speed. Maybe not. But he would have lost the energy. That was an energy-sapping mistake at the last. Now, you know, it's like if you were playing a game. I always try and look at it as playing a game. And you've built up some stamina. The horse has still got some stamina left. That mistake just depletes that stamina so much, especially at that time of the race. You know, if it happens at the first fence, they can get away with it. But already getting towards the end of their tether, and then that happening, you know, for me, that cost him the race. So where do you go next with him? Well, I think there's an actual race that they should go, and it's this Howdom Handicap Steeplechase at Ascot. It's only over 2 mile 2 and 175 yards. The horse may not quite be getting home over the 2.5 mile. He's now finished second and third over 2.5 and 2 mile 3 and 187. Dropping back to 2 mile 2 and 175 yards. I think he goes very close at Ascot. He does have some Ascot form as well, so yeah, Fero Bamboo to Ascot for that Howdom Handicap Steeplechase on the 23rd of December would be where I hope to see him next. We move on to the long distance hurdle. Marie's Rock, very disappointing. Drifted to 6-5, and I think that kind of demonstrated what they thought of her chances. I don't think she stays 3 mile. Dash or Drasher beating Paisley Park, beating Flight Deck. Just for me, kind of suggests that actually Marie's Rock isn't the new kid on the block in terms of the Stayers hurdle. Tiapu demonstrated on Sunday that he's probably there to still be the one to beat. Now that Cider Burley is surely going to be too old this year. But I mean, there's a place for a novice to step up into that Stayers hurdle grade. Don't know who it is yet. But I wouldn't be backing Dash or Drasher or Paisley Park or Flight Deck or Marie's Rock come the Cheltenham Festival. Moving on to the Play Coral Racing Super Series for free handicap hurdle. This 3 mile handicap hurdle at Newbury. Do you know what? The right horses have finished in the front 5 here. Especially the front 3. I think all 3 of these are very interesting going forward. Ed Keeper, very good winner for us at 6s. Beat Holy Joe Smoke, probably the right horse to finish second, with Highland in third. The improver had already stamped his mark on the 3 mile division this season over hurdles in handicaps. Looking behind, Hurricane Harvey 4th, Simply the Bet's 5th. Do you know what? I'd love to see Simply the Bets go to the Cheltenham on New Year's Day. Over 2.5 mile with a pro on board. His form is first, 6th, second. His 6th, he was beaten just 5 and a bit lengths by Midnight River, which is obviously good form. I'd love to see them get Harry Cobden back on. He'd run off a mark of around 140. Well, the first time he won, when he beat subsequent Cheltenham Festival winner Imperial Aura, he won off 140. He's then been up, 147, 149, 150, 152 and 154, I believe. Or marks of around that. If he ran at Cheltenham off 142 and Harry Cobden rode, he's clearly still showing enough, having finished a decent 5th in a good handicap hurdle. This was his first handicap hurdle for about 5 years. It's clearly a prep run, but David, please give Harry the ride and let Harry go and win a race for you at Cheltenham. I think he would go very, very close if Harry Cobden rode him on New Year's Day. Moving on to Newbury, the Sir Peter O'Sullivan. Beauport would have won that if he'd ran in it. He didn't. The interesting horse from the race for me, possibly, is Captain Orr. They keep running him, and he's dropping so far in the handicap. If I was the owner of Captain Orr, I'd go, this race on the 27th of December at Kempton. He ran in it a few years ago. He was second to Royal Pagaille. Now, at the time, it looked like a good run. It now looks like a very, very good run. I'm just going to try and find out his mark that day. Newbury. This one. Just having a look. Give me a few seconds. Captain Orr that day ran off a mark of, when he was beaten by Royal Pagaille, 133. Jack took £3 off. He ran at the weekend off 123. He's going to drop another couple of pounds. If he turns up off 120, I mean, he'd be thrown in, wouldn't he? He would, I mean, I think he'd win it at Kempton if he shows any of his previous form. And then you do the obvious plan with him. I would go here. I'd go to Doncaster for the Skybet Handicap Chase, where he's finished third when he jumped atrociously, and second last year. When he was second, he was beaten off 125. And then he went to Ascot off for this Swinley Handicap off a mark of 127, and he won that by 7 lengths. He's down to 123. He's so well handicapped. I honestly think they'll drop him another 3 to 120 for Kempton. You could win at Kempton and go up to 125. Having won at Kempton, you could then go to Doncaster for the Skybet of 125 and probably win that. Then go up to 130. It'd still only be £3 higher than when winning at Ascot, winning by 7 lengths. I think you could do that. And I think that would be a great little plan for Captain Orr. I think they've got him well handicapped now. Next time and the time after that is the time to catch him. So do put Captain Orr in your NagMe. If you haven't got him in there, put him in there now. I've put Kempton 3 mile. I'm going to put Kempton 3 mile, Doncaster 3 mile, Ascot 3 mile. They're the races for him coming up shortly for Captain Orr. The next horse I wanted to put in my NagMe is for future handicaps. It's Cafe Dancer. Now, I think this race will work out well. I think Ginkgo Blue and Massacio were the right horses battling out the finish. Massacio was unlucky or ran a really good race and was clearly showed he almost was good enough to give away a penalty. Ginkgo Blue clearly improved for his debut run, but these were good R figures from the front 3. Looking behind, I think Il Vad de Soy they tried to run. Cafe Dancer I don't think was ever put in the race. And off the back of a 130.6 bumper, and then potentially running a decent novice hurdle race, I think that was a good race. Keep an eye out for Cafe Dancer when he goes handicapping. Very interesting. Eye-catching on return, can definitely win races soon, maybe being aimed at handicaps. So Cafe Dancer, I want to put into your NagMe, was never asked for an effort. We'll move on to the 2.5 mile handicap at Newbury. Getatonic drifted from 6s to 28s, made all the running, nothing got near him. I caught that just in time, I've just had a coughing fit. Jet Powered pulled up, clearly something amiss, went out like a light. Are we ever going to see Jet Powered again? That's 2 consecutive poor runs. Wouldn't surprise me if they never run him again. The horse to take out the race is North Lodge. Got outpaced, ran on strongly. I think they can find a handicap for him over 3 mile. 3 mile handicap. Good return. Strong finish. In a race that probably wasn't run to suit. So yeah, I'm interested in North Lodge going forward. Nothing else really. We then look at the intermediate handicap, the Giro Fielden, and this is a race that I actually think normally works out really well. And I think all 3 of those at the front can go well in subsequent races. Hansard probably go to the Betfair Hurdle. I think Brentford Hope will go to the Betfair Hurdle, which I think will suit him as well. I think the one out of those 3 that is the most interesting for me is Bad, because he's only 4. I thought it was a really good race from Bad. He actually started to stay on again a little bit right at the finish and start to close down Hansard again. And maybe he kicked for home too soon. I think he's very interesting going forward. There's a few races that they could target with him, including the Betfair Hurdle. They could also look at something like maybe the Imperial Cup. They believed they had a horse that was really well handicapped last year for the Boodles. He went off 5 to 1 for the Boodles on his first run for Ben Pauling, off a mark of 126. Now, he's finished second here off 120. I think he'll go up £3, maybe £4 for that. That puts him on 124, which kind of suggests that he's still £2 lower than when they thought they had a really well handicapped horse. I think they did have a really well handicapped horse. He just needed more experience and needed more time in the UK to acclimatise. And I just feel that maybe they might go, let's not run him again now. He's only 4. We've still got plenty of time with him. Let's not run him again. Turn up at the Imperial Cup, win the Imperial Cup, run under a penalty off 124 plus a penalty in a county. I think that would be very, very interesting. That would be what I would be looking at for a 4-year-old, because he's so young. They don't need to rush him yet. They can still, they've got plenty of time ahead of them. If he was 8, 9, yeah, you need to be winning handicaps now. He's 4. They don't need to be winning handicaps and try and win an Imperial Cup and a county hurdle. I think that would be a good plan for Bad, personally. Next one I want to talk about was the Hennessy, the Coral Gold Cup. That's alright, Gino. I mean, we backed him at 16s, I think it was, or was it 25s, for the 2.5 handicap at the Cheltenham Festival. And he pulled up. He was one of the first beat that day. I did highlight him, saying, it went wrong, don't give up on him. He then went to Ayr and won a graded race, I think. Did he win a grade 2? And he went up slightly in the handicap. That annoyed me. He then ran no sort of race on his return in the Old Roan Chase. We probably should have still been looking at him, because he was only a few pound higher than when winning at than when he pulled up at Cheltenham, when we said he was really well handicapped. He was my nap of the week, I believe. It was all about the trip for him. Did he want that trip? Yes. He travelled beautifully, nicked up the inside and won really impressively. Marla Mission ran a great race for second. We highlighted him for the Welsh National. I still think he would have won that. Of those behind, I'd be interested in Monbeg Genius. I wonder whether they now target the Ultima. If they turn up, because they can't do much with his mark here for finishing third. It's not like he was even super close. He was beaten nearly 10 lengths or over 10 lengths. It's not like he got beat by a nose in third. He ran off 147. I think they might leave him on 147, and wherever he goes next is going to be interesting. I don't think it quite went to plan. He was one of the first off the bridle in the front, 8 or 9, and yet he still finished third. I do think it's interesting, and I think he was beaten by 2 very well handicapped horses. But yeah, try and just come back for that Ultima would be my plan with him. Maybe target the Ultima and maybe a race at Aintree. What would be, the harm in that? I don't really think there is one. Does he need to go up to the Welsh National? Not in my opinion. Further behind, Kitty's Light, found it all happening way too fast. Gonna go for the Grand National. Just hope they don't get his mark dropped too much for that. And the other one that I do kind of want to give one more chance to, and this is a bit of a strange one. People will slate me for this. I'm just going to load it up on my other screen. Is Ahoy Senor. Now, he's found this not to his liking. It was a handicap and he had to try and make all the running. It didn't work. Do you know what? Why don't they try and aim him at the 3-mile handicap at Aintree? Look at his form before the new year and after the new year. Before the new year, unseated, 1st, 2nd, 5th, 3rd, 5th. After the new year, 2nd, 1st, 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 2nd, 1st, 1st, fell 2nd. The 4 was in the Gold Cup, when actually he was still running quite well. Yeah. There's worse plans than aiming him at the 3-mile handicap at Aintree. How do you do that? Well, you go for the Cotswolds, you go for the Premier Chase. The Cotswold at Cheltenham, if he disappoints, he'll drop a few pound. You then run in the Premier Chase at Kelso. If he wins that, great. If he doesn't, he drops a few pound. You end up at Aintree off a £5 or £6 lower mark than what you ran in the Hennessy at the weekend. And surely he runs a big race there. I mean, he's second to... Who was he second to at Aintree? Noble Yates. Was he second or did he end up finishing third? Let's just quickly load it up on my other screen. He was second to Shishkin over 3 mile at Aintree. He was third to Noble Yates and Dashel Drusher. And he was a winner beating Brave Man's Game in the Sefton Novices Hurdle. And he also beat Fury Road in the manifesto. Sorry, the Mild May. Why would you not target that 3 mile handicap then? Or at least target a return to Aintree with him. Don't give up on him. If he runs again before the turn of the year, I wouldn't be backing him. But maybe after the new year, if you find him in a handicap, he could be interesting. Got it again, just before my coughing fit. This race, the maiden hurdle over 2 mile, Firefox beating Ballyburn. The ratings got it right. The odds got it wrong, so another 1 up for the ratings. The horses to be interested in, definitely Helic Dream. Go and watch that ride. That was a terrible. The pundits after the race said they were given sympathetic rides. I think the word the bit simp is not needed. They were pathetic rides. Look at his R figures as well for Helic Dream. They're good R figures. Wait till he goes handicapping. And he's interesting. He's one that you could find ends up running in a county or a Martin Pipe at the end of the season and being very well handicapped. Helic Dream. As for Firefox and Ballyburn, I was probably more impressed with Ballyburn than I was Jericho De Reponet. I think that will work out better for him. And it wouldn't surprise me if both Firefox and Ballyburn were better than Jericho De Reponet at the end of the season. But yeah, definitely put Helic Dream in your eye catchers, in your RTR NagMe, as one for a handicap down the line. The handicap chase, the listed handicap chase over 2 mile 1, a couple of disappointments, including Dancing on My Own, Gry Diamond. Now, Gry Diamond was very weak on his first run for Gordon Elliott. He's one that Gordon could well target at the Grand Annual. He'll need to get him dropped a few pounds, and he'll definitely get dropped for this run. If he keeps running in these types of races and drops, £5 or £6 and turns up at Cheltenham in the Grand Annual, he could be interesting. But I think he needs to drop a few pounds for Gordon Elliott. But Gordon's quite good in that Grand Annual. The Grade 3 Willow Warm Hurdle. Risk Bell took advantage of the sad fall and loss of gust of wind. I actually think Nosret should have won it, though. I think Nosret was the best horse in that race, even giving away the penalty. I'm saying he is a he, isn't it? He, for me, was travelling better or just as well as Risk Bell. Made a mess of the second last when not getting a clear run either. I think Nosret would have beaten Risk Bell, and Nosret's the most interesting one of those going forward for me. We had Read to Return finish 4th in a handicap hurdle over 2 mile 3. Now, he was the horse that the jockey got a big ban for finishing 5th at Cheltenham over 3 mile 1 over fences. This was 2 mile 3 over hurdles. They've tried to cover that run up, and next time you won't see 5-2 about it next time. But when it goes back over fences, back over a trip, Read to Return is interesting. And finally, Tiapu beating Imperial Epas. Well, our ratings got it right. And interestingly, if you look at the R figures, okay, Imperial Epas could have improved, but I don't think he did on his return. I think it was probably down here sort of thing. But it was always going to be tough to beat Tiapu. Now, I know that sounds after timing. The ratings were there before the race. The R figures were there before the race. We haven't changed those. And I imagine Imperial Epas will be dropped in trip now and Tiapu goes up in trip. And it may just be that Imperial Epas got beaten by a really good stayer and he doesn't stay that trip and he wants a shorter trip, or he doesn't want a stayer in against him. And last season he was beating other 2 mile horses that weren't good enough, or 2.5 mile horses that weren't good enough, whereas now he's bumped into a proper Grade 1 3 miler. He's been outstayed. But yeah, I still don't think Imperial Epas is going to get close to Constitution Hill. So yeah, there's some thoughts for the weekend. A few eye catchers. Tell me the last horse to win that maiden hurdle that won the Supreme. Don't back him now if you haven't backed him. Russian Ruler, put him in your eye catchers. Looking for a handicap. Max of Stars and Woodhoo, they're going to be decent fillies, I believe. Hermes Len, I thought that was a great run from him. Fero Bamboo, I hope to see him at Ascot for this 2 mile 2 handicap. I wouldn't be backing any of those for the 3 mile Stayers hurdle. Definitely Simply the Bets if it goes to Cheltenham for that 2.5 mile handicap. Put Harry Cobden on and I'd be very, very confident of a huge run. David Maxwell's just got to bite the bullet and go, okay, I'm not good enough to win on him, but he is well handicapped. Let's give some other jockey the ride. Captain Nor, I think he could win all of these races, the Kempton 3 Mile, the Doncaster Sky Bet Handicap Chase, and the Swinley Chase at Ascot if they run him in those 3 races next. Cafe Dancer is one for your handicaps down the line. North Lodge is one for next time in a handicap. He might go up to 3 Mile. Bad, wherever he goes. I'd like to see them be careful with him as a 4-year-old and go Imperial Cup County Hurdle. Monbeg Genius could be aimed now at the Ultima. Kitty's Light up for the Grand National. Don't give up on Ahoy Senor next year, as in after New Year. Firefox and Ballyburn I think will turn out to be better than Jericho De Reponet. Helic Dream is the one for your RTR NagMe for handicaps. Gry Diamond might be aimed at the Grand National at the end of the season. Nuzret I think would have beaten Risk Bell if everything had gone to plan. Read to Return will be better when fences and up and trip. And Tiapu beating Imperial Pass was not a surprise for me. And I don't think Imperial Pass will get anywhere near Constitution Hill.